All right, I need to say something, and I already know some of you are going to feel a little bit called out. You're wearing some sort of device that costs about $500, like a ring, watch, or some strap that's supposedly tracking your every move throughout the day and every hour of your sleep at night with total precision. Meanwhile, you can fool that exact same device into thinking you walked an entire mile just by sitting at your desk and shaking your wrist like you're trying to hail a cab. That's no joke. That's an actual documented thing, and it happens with the sleep tracking devices also, not just the step counting. So what exactly are we wearing here? Because it's starting to feel like people are just walking around and lying around at night as unpaid guinea pigs for tech companies, still trying to figure out if this shit even works the way that they're selling it to us. I'm Debbie, a holistic nutritionist for 15 years now, and what that means is that I look at the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And normally that means we're going to talk about food, which we will a little bit, but today is going to be a little different. So stick with me through this because it circles right back to your plate by the end, I promise. So what got me thinking about this was that I keep hearing people who are genuinely stressed over a number, a readiness score in the morning, a sleep score or step count that didn't match how their body actually felt that day. People second guessing their own exhaustion or their own decent night's sleep because a graph told them otherwise. That's backwards. Your own body should never lose an argument to an app. So I went out and I looked at what the actual research says, both about the daytime step tracking and the overnight sleep tracking, because these are two different jobs on the same device, claiming to do it well. And it turns out there's a lot of shit going on behind that little screen that nobody explains to you when you buy it. And to be clear, this is not about whether the gadgets are cheaply made or badly built. Not at all. The question is whether they're actually doing the thing that they're advertised to do, accurately track your movement and your sleep. And the research says kind of, sometimes, but not really. So you can, researchers strapped a phone to a bicycle crank arm and spun it for like 10 minutes. It logged over 12,000 fake steps. No walking involved. Zero. Just a spinning pedal convincing the device that a human was out there power walking somewhere. And it's not just a lab trick. Fitbit's own community forums are full of people asking why folding laundry, brushing their teeth, driving on a bumpy road tracked up hundreds of steps that they never even took. The device isn't watching your feet. It's guessing based on how your wrist or finger is moving. And it turns out our wrists move for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with walking. On the flip side, it also misses steps that you did take. This is a part that really pisses me off because it goes both ways. That same device that thinks you're a marathoner for folding towels completely misses steps that you actually took. Research on older adults found that if you move slowly, shuffle a little, or don't swing your arms much, which, let's be honest, describes most of the people doing chores around the house, the tracker often doesn't register it as a step at all. One study had a group of seniors walking on treadmills covered in trackers from head to toe, and the devices still couldn't accurately count their steps because they simply weren't moving in the exact way that the algorithm expects a real walker to move. So depending on how you move throughout your day, the same device can either be over or under counting you, sometimes both in the same afternoon. And you have absolutely no way of knowing which one just happened. But what about your phone? Isn't that the same thing? Great question, because I wanted to know that too. And here's an important distinction because not all tracking works the same way. If you've ever compared your phone's GPS through something like a mapping or hiking app against a wearable device, you may have noticed that the phone's distance tracking is pretty solid compared to the app that tracks that tracks hiking or mapping. That's because the GPS distance tracking works completely differently from a step counter. It's not guessing based on wrist movement at all. It's using satellites to measure your actual change in location. Research comparing your phones against dedicated GPS watches during long runs found phones were a little less precise. They were off by about a third of a kilometer over a half marathon, while GPS watches came in even tighter. But even the phone's margin was small enough to be genuinely reliable for real-world distance and timing. That's a world away from guessing some wrist-based step counter. So your phone sitting in your bag isn't doing the same job as the ring on your finger. It's not trying to interpret arm swings or steps. It's just tracking where you physically went, which is a much more straightforward thing to do. So what about the science behind wearing these things all day and night? Since we're already going down this road, here's something else that's worth knowing. These devices maintain a wireless connection to your phone, which means that they're emitting low levels of radio frequency pretty much continuously throughout the day, especially if you're wearing it on your wrist or finger 24 hours a day, sleep tracking included. To be clear, this falls within current safety limits, and it's a non-iodizing radiation, meaning it doesn't damage your DNA the way something like an X-ray can. But the honest answer is that long-term research on years of constant direct skin contact with these devices is still pretty limited, and it's a newer category of exposure than regulators originally built their safety standards around. Your phone sitting in your bag or purse, by comparison, is farther away from your body than wearing some device on your body all day in continuous contact with your skin. I'm not telling you to panic or throw your ring out. I'm telling you it's a reasonable thing to be curious about, and it's one more reason a lower tech option isn't such a crazy idea. Okay, but what about sleep specifically? Fair question, since that's usually the biggest selling point for a lot of these devices. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Researchers have actually compared these devices against the real gold standard, which is an overnight sleep study lab. You know, the kind where you're sleeping with wires hooked up to you and shit in a hospital or clinical setting. And the consistent finding across multiple studies is that the consumer devices are not as reliable for measuring the detailed stuff. So like how much sleep did you actually get, how much REM, how many times you actually woke up in the night. One study on patients with real sleep complaints found that the devices weren't dependable for measuring any of that in a clinical, meaningful way. So that readiness score you're anxiously checking every morning, it's built on data that even researchers testing this shit call inconsistent. You're not getting a lab report, you're getting an educated guess wearing a nice app interface. So now this is the part that actually ties back into food, because this isn't really about devices at all. It's about what's actually driving how you feel, which the device can't see one way or the other. A lot of what bad sleep gets blamed on is actually really your blood sugars. A heavy, sugary dessert or a few glasses of wine too close to bedtime spike your blood sugar, and that spike crashes overnight, which can genuinely wake you and leave you feeling like shit the next morning. There's no ring required to explain that. Same with stress. Chronic stress keeps cortisol levels elevated, and elevated cortisol disrupts both your sleep quality and your energy the next day. None of that shows up as a food or stress note on your Wearables app. It just shows up as bad score with zero explanation, and you're left blaming your sleep instead of the dinner or the deadline that actually caused it. Here's my actual question, and I say this with love. Who exactly are you competing against? Are you a professional athlete getting paid millions of dollars to shave half a second off of a sprint or to recover fast enough to be able to perform again tomorrow? Nope, you're probably a regular person just trying to move your body a reasonable amount and get a decent night's sleep. Nobody is scouting your readiness score, and nobody is comparing your deep sleep percentages to anyone else's for a contract renewal. One more thing nobody talks about. Every single damn day is different. You had a bad night? Fine, try again. That's it. That's the whole strategy. You ate like shit? That's fine. Start again the next day. Who cares? You don't need a graph telling you that stress or a late night dinner or your neighbor's damn dog barking at 2 a.m. fucked with your sleep. You already knew that because you lived it. So what am I actually suggesting here? Honestly, sometimes it's a notebook and a pen. Literally writing shit down, what you ate, when you went to bed, how you felt, when you woke up, and it costs you nothing. You don't have to be fooled, or it can't be fooled by folding laundry, and it forces you to actually pay attention to your own patterns, food included, instead of outsourcing that awareness to an algorithm that, according to actual researchers, is still just trying to figure this shit out. If you love your ring or watch, keep it, especially if it's motivating you to move more or go to bed earlier. That's a real benefit, and I'm not taking that away from you at all. Forget the number. It's just a guide, not a verdict. It's a rough estimate designed or dressed up to look like a lab result. You're not failing at sleep or movement because some stupid score told you to, or told you so, sorry. You might be wearing a device that got fooled by your car ride home or missed half your steps because you were shuffling around doing the dishes. The real measure is much simpler than any of this. How do you actually feel? Are you rested? Can you get through the day without wanting to take a nap in the cereal aisle? That's the readiness score that's always been accurate, and it's been sitting right there in your own body this whole damn time. No subscription required. I get it. These devices are genuinely fun. They're motivating for a lot of people, and I'm not here to guilt you into throwing yours in a drawer or the bin. Wear it if it gets you moving. Just stop letting it be a referee for how your body's actually doing, and stop letting it distract you from what actually matters. What you're eating, what your stress levels are. These actually decide how you feel far more accurately than any score on a screen. You live the day. You know if you're tired, if your knees feel good, your head's foggy. No ring, watch, or app gets the final count on that. So the next time that score comes in low and your gut says otherwise, trust your gut and maybe take a look at what was on your plate last night or what was on your to-do list the day before. If it's been doing this a lot longer, your body has been doing this a lot longer than any of these damn companies have. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more No BS Nutrition, and I'll see you in the next one.